What is going on, everybody? Excuse me. Thank you for joining us here on the Mission Ready Men podcast on the SHR Media Network. Today is Tuesday, November 26th, and it is the last show we're going to do before Thanksgiving. So we're going to talk about that holiday, what it means, its significance, and we're also going to talk about some cabinet drama that is still going on. And I don't think any of us really expected that there wouldn't be. But we're going to talk about that. But before we get started, let's get business out of the way and go ahead and hit that like button, like and subscribe to the channel. Share the video, share all these videos. The more you like and share, the more people we reach, and the less beholden we are to the big tech overlords' algorithms. They are actively trying to suppress content like this, businesses like ours. Despite the fact that we won the battle on November 5th, we're still in a war, and they are still actively trying to shut us down. So go ahead and do that for us. Spread the word far and wide. And I just want to thank you for joining us here on the SHR Media Network. On the SHR Media Network, you can catch all the great shows, the Edge of Liberty with my friend Sackhead Sean, the Reverb Common Sense with Jersey Joe, and BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon with the one and only BZ. And you can follow Mission Ready Men on all the socials at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And we'd love to hear from you. And if you like the sweatshirt I'm wearing, head over to missionreadymen.com and hit shop and check out all this design and all the other cool ones that we have. So now that that is out of the way, let's get after it. So Thanksgiving is, like I said, is coming up, and it is a uniquely American holiday. And it is one that, for a lot of people, it's their favorite holiday. I don't know if I really have a favorite holiday. I guess Christmas would be it if there was one. And people who know me, hearing me say that, it must come as quite a shock. But things change. Anyway, Thanksgiving is like I said, a uniquely American holiday, but it is rooted in the Christian faith, and a lot of people hate to hear that. A lot of people refuse to believe it, regardless of any of the evidence that is presented to them. Excuse me. But the first, the very first Thanksgiving was proclaimed by George Washington in 1789 in his Thanksgiving Day Proclamation. And I'm going to read that here in a second. It was issued on October 3rd of 1789, where he designated Thursday, November 26th as a national holiday to give thanks and things like that. So let's go ahead and get into that, because I think it's important that we understand exactly what this is, where this came from, and why it's important to celebrate it going forward. And we're going to get into some. Anyway, we're going to get into some alternative celebrations, I guess you could say, that has just gone completely off the rails. But we're going to focus right now on Thanksgiving and the real uh, the real holiday. So let's check this out. It is the Thanksgiving Proclamation of 1789 by George Washington. By the President of the United States of America, a proclamation. Whereas it is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey his will, to be grateful for his benefits, I humbly to implore his protection and favor. And whereas both houses of Congress have by their joint committee requested me to recommend to the people of the United States a day of public thanksgiving and prayer to be observed by acknowledging with grateful hearts the many signal favors of Almighty God, especially by affording them an opportunity peaceably to establish a form of government for their safety and happiness. Now, therefore, I do recommend and assign Thursday, the 26th of November, next to be devoted by the people of these United States to the service of that great and glorious being who is the beneficent author of all the good that was, that is, or that will be, that we may then all unite in rendering unto him our sincere and humble thanks for his kind care and protection of the people of this country previous to their becoming a nation, for the signal and manifold mercies and the favorable interpositions of his providence, which we experienced in the course and conclusion of the late war, for the great degree of tranquility, union, and plenty which we have since enjoyed, for the peaceable and rational manner in which we have been enabled to establish constitutions of government for our safety and happiness, and particularly the national one now lately instituted for the civil and religious liberty with which we are blessed, and the means we have of acquiring and diffusing useful knowledge, and in general for all the great and various favors which he hath been pleased to confer upon us. And also that we may unite in most humbly offering our prayers and supplications to the great Lord and ruler of nations, and beseech him to pardon our national and other transgressions, to enable us all, whether in public or private stations, to perform our several and relative duties properly and punctually, to render our national government and blessing to all the people, by constantly being a government of wise, just, and constitutional laws, discreetly and faithfully executed and obeyed, to protect and guide all sovereigns and nations, especially such as we have shown kindness to us, and to bless them with good government, peace, and concord, to promote the knowledge and practice of true religion and virtue, and the increase of science among them and us, and generally to grant unto all mankind such a degree of temporal prosperity as he alone knows to be best, given under my hand at the city of New York on the 3rd day of October in the year of our Lord, 1789. I don't see how anyone could hear that, read that, and not understand that this country was founded by Christians to be a Christian nation. He proclaimed a holiday to give thanks to God. It doesn't really get much more clear than that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is about as Christian as it gets. Does it not? I'm like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Show me some evidence to the contrary. I saw a debate or a clip of a debate where someone was arguing that the founding fathers were not Christians, and that if they wanted this to be a Christian nation, they would have explicitly said Christian faith in their documents and things like that. And it's like, well, did you read anything that they ever wrote? Did you read any of their speeches? Have you cracked a history book at all? Because it was very clear from all of the debates they had, all of the discussions they had, all of their writings, that they intended this country to be a Christian nation. And now we have the Thanksgiving proclamation as even further proof. And I mean, you can go back to the Mayflower Compact, and just it's obvious. And people who dispute that, they're either ignorant of the facts or they just don't want it to be true. It's that plain and simple. Now, I said in the beginning that we were going to talk about some of the alternatives that have popped up. And I know that there was this movement for Friendsgiving back in the day. And I think it started with the show Friends, maybe. Um, and it was intended for people who either didn't have any family or couldn't get to them or whatever the case may be. But it wasn't a repudiation of getting together with family, unlike what we're seeing now, where I played a clip in a show last week or maybe the week before, where this Yale professor from on Joyless Reed's show talked about how it's okay to cut off your family because they basically voted for your destruction, as far as they're concerned, which is just completely asinine, totally ridiculous. But that is a prevailing that is a prevailing sentiment now since Donald Trump's election a few weeks ago. And one of the outgrowths of that is something that when I first read it, I I couldn't believe what I was actually reading. And then as I continued to read, I realized of course I could believe it, because it's the natural progression of the leftist nonsense. And it really it really shouldn't surprise any of us that that this is happening. But check this out. This is gays giving, if you can believe this. Look at this. This Thanksgiving, we're ditching toxic family for queer love. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's by this lesbian woman who's married to another woman, and she talks about how her family voted for Trump and she's not comfortable. You've heard it all before. It's all the same ridiculousness. But this is, like I said, this is a natural outgrowth of the left's trying to just completely erase Christianity, to claim that we're not a Christian nation, and just marginalize Christians in general, because this is something that Christians just cannot abide by. And I know Christians have homosexual family members and friends and stuff like that, and we pray for them and hope that they come out of that. But at the same time, we're not going to not get together with those people just because that they have these feelings and they act in this manner. Now, most Christians are not going to allow that into their homes, and I know people will say to their brother or sister, whatever, yes, we would love to have you, but you can't bring your lover or whoever you're allegedly married to and things like that. I get that. But we would never just shun our family members, because we love them and we pray for them and we want them to be healthy and happy and all that other stuff. So This just shows the dichotomy that we have between the left and the right, between the Christians and non-Christians, because they are perfectly content to cut off people simply because they disagree. We're not like that. I have had many discussions. I have had many interactions with people who I've known for most of my life, and the only ones that have been completely cut off are the ones that have attacked me or my wife personally, or have just gone so over the top with their rhetoric to make it not worth my while to interact with them anymore. And that's sad. And it's not because I disagree with them. It's because they became so toxic, as that one article said, that it's just in my best interest to not deal with them anymore. And those are two completely different scenarios. So I encourage everyone, regardless of the side of the political spectrum you're on, this Thanksgiving, pray for your family. Try to just spend time with people. Get off social media. Get off the internet. Spend time with people, and try to just reconnect and get away from all this nonsense. Because, like I said, regardless of your political ideology, the chances are, unless someone is just completely far left lunatic, the chances are most people have more in common. And I know this is kind of trite and cliche, but most people have more in common than they don't. And so foregoing the chance to spend time with your friends and family because of this political nonsense is stupid, and you shouldn't do it. But that, that's all I had, and I still see this gays giving thing on my screen. I got to get rid of it anyway. All right, before we move on, I want to get into our sponsor for the day, and that is Patriot Mobile. We made the switch to Patriot Mobile, and we could not be happier with the service. They are, well, they're based here in the United States, so you're always going to get somebody on the phone who speaks English, and you're always going to have someone. You're always going to have someone there who is going to be able to understand you and do their best to help you out. We have had tremendous experiences with Patriot Mobile's customer service, and so we have a discount code, patriotmobile.com/Jackson. And I encourage you to check it out. You can go to the website that you see on your screen, and you'll learn more about us and what we do at Seven Armors, Carry Girl, and Mission Ready Men. But now more than ever, it is important to support companies and support organizations that share our values, because, as we can see with this last election, the votes are just not enough. And Patriot Mobile not only shares our values and our beliefs, but they do something about it. A portion of every dollar that you spend with them supports causes that you and I can support. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless carrier. And like I said, they donate a portion of every dollar to organizations that fight for causes that we care about. So switch to Patriot Mobile now and get a free month of service with the offer code Jackson. And go to patriotmobile.com, use the promo code Jackson, and I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. All right. So President Trump, President-elect Trump, I'm just going to call him President Trump. He has made some cabinet picks that are controversial, to say the least. We saw Matt Gaetz withdraw from consideration, unfortunately. Some people think it was a psyop to get the AG nominee that he's got in there now. I don't know that I believe that, and we're going to talk about her in a second. But what I wanted to, the one I really wanted to talk about, and I think I only touched on him the last time, but there is a controversy surrounding the Secretary of Defense pick, Pete Hegseth, and leaving aside his youth, leaving aside his career as a commentator on Fox News, allegations surfaced that he allegedly raped a woman back in 2017, and the timing of that revelation is curious, though, isn't it? Because back in 2017, I think we were still watching Fox News. I don't watch it anymore, except to maybe see clips of The Five and some other shows on YouTube and Rumble and things like that. But this rape allegation never came out. But now all of a sudden that he is Pete Hegseth is in consideration for the Secretary of Defense. Now the rape allegation surfaces. And there are some very serious issues with the allegation. It was fully investigated by the police, and no charges were ever filed. There was never any. It was never found that he committed any crime. But, and I think we all should have expected this, and it wouldn't surprise me if some other allegations from against some of his other picks come out, because that's just the nature of the left and this political beast. They will do anything to win, and it doesn't. And if it's illegal or if it's immoral, all the better. And so, let's get into this. Let's get into this rape allegation, and I'm not gonna read the entire story, but I want to show you what we're dealing with here, because it's let's just take a look at it, and we'll go from there. And I'm going to have a link to this story in the show notes, and you'll actually be able to read the police report, which I did. And it's to me, and you can read it and disagree if you want, but to me, it is very obviously a false report. I don't think there's any doubt about that in my mind. But witnesses told cops that Pete Hegseth didn't appear to be drunk before or after the 2017 encounter. This took place in 2017, 7 years ago. And the woman at the center of this, she's not named. She's named as John Doe. And you know what? I'm just gonna relate the story, and you can You can read the police report here on this page. Like I said, I'll have it in the show notes. But basically, what happened is this: Pete Hegseth, he was between marriages, and so make of that what you will. Um, I know that some people have some issues with that, and I get that, but the crux of this story is he was at an event at a hotel bar having a few cocktails, and this woman, I guess she was a producer or some type of handler of his, and she came up to him in the bar, had a few drinks. They went off arm in arm, as the surveillance video shows, and that's in the police report. They went off arm in arm up to his room. Meanwhile, this woman's husband and children are in the hotel, in the same hotel. So make of that what you will as well. And they go up to the room a few hours later. She makes it back to her hotel room with her husband and children. And the police report details the conversation that he had with her when everything was said and done, and she was heading back to her room, and she was trying to make up a story. And 5 days later, 4 or 5 days later, after she can't convince her husband that anything, I guess, that everything was okay, she makes up this. Okay, I shouldn't say that. She reports to the police that she had been raped. She suddenly remembers, because everything was fuzzy, she suddenly remembers that she had been raped by Pete Hegseth. The police fully investigated. None of the parties involved appeared to be so inebriated that there couldn't be consent. None of the parties appeared violent. She wasn't bruised or anything like that. There were no indications, even 5 days later, that she had been raped. And the case was dropped. There were no charges were filed, and that was the end of it. Now, Pete Hegseth did pay her off because of his career at Fox. He didn't want that to get torpedoed by this allegation. So she signed an NDA, I believe, and he paid her off. So much is wrong with that story. Pete Hegseth was single at the time, but this woman was married. I don't know if she still is. She's known as John Doe in the report, so we don't know much beyond that. But her husband and children were in the same hotel. How? What type of person does that? Cheats on her husband while he is in the same hotel. Does I don't even know how to wrap my mind around that. And so when this story came out, and I saw that piece of it, it was as obvious to me as it should be to anyone with more than two brain cells to rub together, that this is a false accusation of rape. I- Does anyone disagree with me? I take rape and allegations of rape as seriously as anyone should. But at the same time, if it is very obviously, and this is very obviously, a false allegation, this woman should be held accountable for that. Now, from what I understand, she didn't release this story. Her friends did, most likely at her behest. But she should be held accountable for this, because that is accusing someone of that type of heinous, violent crime. y- If if you falsely accuse somebody of that, then you should suffer the consequences that that person would suffer had they been found guilty. It's I don't see any way around that. She should go to jail. She should absolutely go to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 because that's just sick. Own up to your mistake. Suffer the consequences with your husband, but try to ruin somebody's life like that because of a decision you made, a poor decision that you made, you're going to make that other person who, yeah, he did something wrong because he committed adultery with her, but that in no way rises to the level of rape. And to try to ruin somebody's life and career like that just is unconscionable to me, and it shouldn't stand. And I think when this is all over, all of these people that have smeared Pete Hegseth in this way, he should drag them into court and make them suffer the consequences. All right. Um, there are some other cabinet picks that we need to talk about. Um, Dr. Sebastian Gorka was picked as the president's a deputy assistant to the president and a senior director of counterterrorism. I think that's brilliant. He already served in a similar capacity, I believe, as in the last administration. Not the same thing, but something similar. And I think having him in the administration again is a brilliant move. Now there are some problematic problematic picks that we need to talk about. One of them, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but one of them is the Surgeon General. President Trump picked as his Surgeon General a woman who, in my mind, is really no different than Anthony Fauci. And I'm trying to find a video here that we can see for ourselves exactly what I'm talking about here, because all right, here we go. Let's check this out.
First of all, vaccines save lives. And I am so excited, and I thank and I commend Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg for taking action, because this affects everyone. This affects our children. It affects adults. I mean, just look at the recent measles outbreak, the biggest outbreak that we've had in decades with measles. And that's no joke. Measles can cause brain inflammation and pneumonia and ear infections and hearing loss and death. So it's about time that
What she's doing right here is she's praising Facebook and the other social media outlets for censoring what they deem as misinformation.
that they are taking action. And I hope and pray that other social media platforms will follow suit and do the same thing. First of all, vaccine.
I mean, it doesn't get much more fascist than that, does it? It doesn't get much more anti-First Amendment than that. She is basically a female Fauci. Now, as a Surgeon General, she's not going to have that kind of power. Jeanette Neshawat. I don't think I mentioned her name before I played that, but yeah, Jeanette Neshawat is a doctor, and I remember seeing her during the COVID nonsense, and nothing she's said or done since I don't think has led me to believe that she's changed her stance on that in any way. But like I said, as a Surgeon General, she's not going to have the same type of power that Fauci had. So as problematic as it is for her to be in that position, it's not a huge deal. But there is uh, another the labor secretary who he nominated, Lori Chavez DeRemer, from Oregon, and that right there, that right there should tell you everything you need to know, because Oregon is as big a lefty haven, regardless of party, as you can possibly imagine. And just to illustrate that point, this is uh, Heritage Action's Liberty Score, basically. They don't call it a Liberty Score, they call it a Freedom Scorecard or something like that. She is at 57%. There are Democrats that are right around that score. And the sad thing is the average House Republican is only at 74%. So grading on a scale, she's really not that bad. But but at 57%, that's terrible. And she is on record voting for, I think she even co-sponsored the Dignity Act and the American Dream and Promise Act, which are basically amnesty bills for illegal aliens. Having someone like that as the labor secretary, that could spell some that could indicate some really serious problems. And I really don't think that she should be confirmed. Of all of his cabinet picks, she's one of the most problematic for me. And the fact that she's from Oregon, that, like I said, should tell you pretty much all you need to know. She is a Democrat. I mean, just look at that freedom score I showed you, 57%. She might as well just have a D in front of her name. So call your senators and tell them to vote against Lori Chavez DeRemer when her confirmation comes up, and Trump needs to pick somebody else. But finally, I want to talk about Pam Bondi. When I first heard that he picked Pam Bondi, I'm not going to say I was excited, but I didn't think it was a bad pick. And then I started to remember all of the things that she did, and it didn't come to me. I had to be reminded by some people like Cam Edwards over at Bearing Arms and Dana Lash. I had to be reminded of some of the stances that she took, especially when it comes to red flag laws. She was, and this took place after the Parkland shooting. She was a big proponent of red flag laws, or gun violence restraining orders, as she likes to call them. And there is a pretty famous video of her with President Trump as she's explaining all this to him. And I want to show that to you right now. Check this out.
Are a danger to themselves.
Which you can't do right now.
Well, because we've been rewriting it, and we are going to bring in something called the gun violence restraining order. So if someone is civilly committed typically you can hold them for up to 72 hours, but people are getting out within 24 hours, the majority of them. So what we want to do is let law enforcement come in and take the guns.
Good.
They're a danger to themselves
Which you can't
or
do right
others.
now.
Well, because without being adjudicated. So because they're a danger to themselves.
You want them to take the guns and
when they are
not
committed.
go through 6 months of legal trials. And
That is the exact opposite of due process. And as a Republican attorney general, I was really surprised that this was her stance. I wasn't really surprised at Trump because he's said similar things before. And let's just get this out of the way. Trump is not exactly a staunch Second Amendment advocate. I think he listens to his sons who are staunch Second Amendment advocates, and I think he's going to follow their advice. But that is not in his nature. His nature would be to do exactly what Pam Bondi is suggesting here, and take the guns and then have due process, which is the exact opposite of due process.
everything else,
Exactly.
which is-
But we
Okay.
also have to give the
Good.
mentally ill the due process in which they deserve, President. So what we're doing is they're going to be able to take the guns when they're taken into custody or into the hospital. And then when they're released within 24 hours or 72 hours later, typically it's 24 hours, but law enforcement will have 72 hours to determine whether they should give those guns back, or they can go to a judge and say, Your Honor, please keep these guns.
Again, that is so not due process. That is the exact opposite of due process. And it just blows my mind that so many conservatives are just gonna gloss right over this.
We feel this person is still a danger to himself or others, whether
So
they're
this
in or
would
out
not
of
have worked
custody.
the way it's currently constituted. This would not have worked with Cruz as it's currently constituted.
As it's currently written.
So you're going to make changes?
We're going to make changes. We've been rewriting it, and we are going to bring in some.
And when he mentioned Cruz, I believe that is the name of the Parkland shooter that he's referring to there. This is a problem. This is a huge problem. And then when you start to look at her actual record when it comes to the Second Amendment, I'm not going to come out and say she's a gun grabber like a lot of lefties are, but she is very squishy when it comes to the Second Amendment. If we don't have a strong Congress to be able to push back on some of the stuff that she would try to do, that this could be bad for the Second Amendment. She's probably going to sail through, but we need to make sure, and again, call your senators, call your representatives, and tell them to tell them to vote against her, first of all. But if they don't do that, at least urge them to question her thoroughly on her stance on the Second Amendment and what she would do with regard to our Second Amendment rights going forward, because that's a problem. That is a huge problem that we really shouldn't have to deal with in a second Trump presidency, especially given the mandate that he's been given. Our rights should not be in jeopardy in this way. Now, another way we could offset that, and I've recently come around to this. I wasn't familiar with this guy until within the past year, but apparently he is a huge Second Amendment influencer, and his name is Brandon Herrera, and he is actively lobbying right now for ATF director. And he recently ran for, not recently, in the last election, he primaried Representative Tony Gonzalez for the to represent the 23rd congressional district here in Texas, which is huge. It goes from San Antonio to El Paso, which, if you're familiar with Texas, you know that that's that's a big area. I'm actually surprised that it's that large, but he ran against Tony Gonzalez in the primary, came within 405, 407 votes of beating him in the primary. And just imagine if he had the backing of the Republican establishment, even just a little bit, because he did this all on his own, and grassroots fundraising and things like that. Imagine if somebody who was actually conservative in the Republican establishment threw some money his way and backed him. He'd be Representative Herrera right now. But since we don't have that, he's lobbying for the director of the ATF. And I know a lot of people don't want to see they want to see the ATF disbanded, and I'm one of those people. I would love to see it go away. But the problem with that is, and this was pointed out to me not too long ago, the problem with that is that there are, as I've stated many times, over 30,000 laws on the books that infringe on our rights, which the ATF is charged with enforcing. If we disband the ATF, if our dream scenario was the ATF was gone, those 30,000 laws are still on the books. Somebody's going to have to enforce them. And who do you think that's going to be? The FBI. Let me know if you get that reference. So the FBI, which has proven itself to be completely anti-we the people, they would be worse than the ATF, in my opinion. And so, yeah, the ATF goes away, and then the FBI is in, and all those ATF agents would go over to the FBI and be subject to the FBI's rules and regulations, and they would enforce the ATF rules and gun control laws according to the FBI's standards. Again, that's a problem. But as long as we have the ATF, we need somebody in there who understands the Second Amendment, who understands our rights, who understands firearms, unlike the guy who's in there right now, which we'll get to in a second. We need somebody in there who is going to actually go back to the ATF's original mission, which was to go after arms dealers and illegal gun traffickers and things like that, and not go after somebody who's building their own firearm and puts a certain type of trigger in their AR and then has the ATF show up at their door. If we have Brandon Herrera in there, that's what he would do. I believe he would go in there and he would start directing the ATF to go after the firearms dealers and the illegal gun traffickers and things like that, because what we have right now is a complete mess. This is a video of Brandon Herrera in Colorado, arguing against some ridiculous laws that the government of Colorado was trying to implement.
My name is Herrera. I'm a licensed 0702 FFL firearm manufacturer, and I am deeply opposed to the unconstitutional anti-gun measure being forced down the throats of law-abiding American citizens today. Speaking directly now to the voters of Colorado for a moment, unfortunately, some of your politicians are voting in support of this bill, not because it's going to help you, not because it's going to reduce crime. They see the statistics, or at least they should. They know this is useless garbage that doesn't actually solve anything. If they actually wanted to protect students, they would introduce bills that actually protect schools with armed security, making them hard targets, and not focus on punishing law-abiding gun owners of Colorado. But here we are. The reason they're voting for this is because they're caving, because selling your rights away is currently politically convenient. It's insane for members to sit here and listen to folks who quite frankly have no clue about firearms other than the things they've been told by anti-gun politicians who were informed by people who have no clue about firearms, aside from what they, so on and so forth. I've yet to hear a single actual expert testify in favor of this bill today. To put these uninformed opinions above the Constitution is leading to some pissed off constituents, and it should. Speaking of pissed off constituents, there's a pile of almost 200,000 petitions sitting outside this chamber that you guys won't allow in, these petitions right here. There are dollies outside of this room loaded with these petitions, almost 200,000 of your voters begging you to listen to them. Try not to trip over them on the way out. Thank you. God bless.
I don't know about you, but I want somebody like that in charge of the ATF, as opposed to the current ATF director. And I've talked about this guy before too. He is just, I don't even understand how he became the director of the ATF. But okay, here we go. This guy, and this is a quick clip, but check this out.
If you go past 15 seconds, as a gun owner of many different types and a 20-year military veteran, I have some expertise in weaponry and self-defense weapons. What could you, in 15 seconds, would you define an assault weapon for me?
So
if you go past 15 seconds, I'll just interrupt you.
no, so I'll go shorter than that because I honestly, I do think if Congress wishes to take that up, I think Congress would have to do the work, but we would be there to provide technical assistance. Unlike you, I'm not a firearms expert to the same extent as you may be, but we have people at ATF who can talk about velocity of firearms, what damage different kinds of firearms cause, so that whatever determination you chose to make would be an informed one.
As a gun owner of many different types and a 20-year military veteran, I have some expertise in.
This guy, the director of the ATF, just said, and this was a couple of years ago, but said in a hearing that he's not a firearms expert. And he talked about how there were people at the ATF who were experts who could better speak to that. And he did a segment on, I believe, 60 Minutes. It may be one of those other news magazines, where he had this so-called expert with, I think it was Nora O'Donnell, talking about all the different firearms and what made an assault weapon and things like that. And the guy that he had with him could not field strip a Glock. I don't have the video in front of me right now, but he couldn't take down a Glock. Anyone with even rudimentary knowledge should be able to take down a Glock in a matter of seconds. And he was struggling. It was it was sad. The expert. So yeah, I vote for Brandon Herrera to be ATF director, and I really hope that happens, whether it's him or someone similar to him, because he's going to have to stand in the gap between Pam Bondi and we the people, and put a stop to this anti-constitution, anti-gun, anti-due process nonsense that they're trying to pull. And maybe we're overreacting to Pam Bondi, but the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And what she did in the past is most likely what she's going to try to do in the future. It's that plain and simple. All right, I'm running out of time, and I wanted to get to this real quick. There were a couple of stories I wanted to get to that I'm just going to run out of time because I was too long-winded. But there is one story that that I saw this week that I wanted to bring to your attention because it's heartbreaking, and that is the story of Jeff Younger. He is a father here in Texas whose wife decided to transition one of their twin sons into a female, a girl. And during the divorce, she moved to California so she could do this. And a California judge just paved the way for this woman to mutilate his son. He announced on X that he lost all parental rights over his twin sons after LA Superior Court Judge Mark Junis granted his estranged pediatrician. She's a doctor. I forgot about that. His wife, ex-wife, is a doctor. She's a psychopath. But gave her the authority to castrate his 12-year-old son, James, who she is calling Luna. And if you've ever seen his story, he's been on The Blaze and a few other outlets where he talks about it. When he's with him, he's a typical boy. He wants to do boy things, but when he's with his mother, and I use that word loosely, she tries to get him to put on dresses and things like that. And this is just heartbreaking that this court in California is allowing this. It's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. And this is the type of damage that the gender delusion trans agenda does. And along those same lines, not along the same lines, but with regard to the trans agenda, the gender delusion agenda, there is a little bit of good news, and that is that President Trump has decided to step in on this when it comes to the military and end this madness, at least on the military front. President Trump to remove transgender service members from military on day one. Absolutely. That is fantastic news. A lot of people are saying that it's going to hurt because we're already missing our recruitment goals and things like that. So what? We're probably missing our recruitment goals because we're dealing with this nonsense. I mean, this is a major issue within the military, and it is so because these people are not contributing at all to our military readiness. they're going through these hormone therapies, and they're going through all this, these drug cocktails, and some of them are even having the military pay for these surgeries, which also takes them out of the rotation for our military readiness. Just get rid of them all. Get rid of them all. And get people in there who really want to serve and want to break stuff and want to protect us from our enemies and kill our enemies when necessary. And not use the military as some experiment to wave that ridiculous flag. No, this is outstanding. This is one of the best things that he could possibly do. I think it would go a long way in boosting our recruitment numbers, and it would show the militaries around the world who are looking at these people who are representing the military. You saw the Navy commercial with that dude prancing around the aircraft carrier deck. That would go a long way into reasserting the American military as the best in the world. So good on President Trump for that. All right, that's it. I got to go, folks. I'm a little bit over. So that's all I got for you. I will try to do better the next time. I want to thank you all for watching and listening. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share. Like I said at the beginning, the big tech overlords are doing their best to suppress us. So the more you like and subscribe and share, the more people we reach, and the more effective we can be in spreading the word of God, spreading the message of Jesus Christ, of liberty and hope, and spreading the conservative message, and getting people back to loving this country the way it should, because it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be here, and we need to treat it as such. So again, thank you all for watching and listening. Head over to missionreadymen.com, click on shop, and check out this We the People sweatshirt, t-shirt, all the other cool designs we have. And check out the whole website. The whole website is dedicated to what we're trying to do here at Mission Ready Men. So check it out. And we'll look forward to seeing you over there. Like I said, that's it. So as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.